what's the use of two strong legs if you only run away? And what use is the finest voice when you've nothing good to say? What good is strength and muscle if you only push and shove? And what's the use of two good ears when you can't hear those you love? It's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got. Yeah, it's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got.
Welcome back to the Seeds of Revolution. Today we have a friend of the podcast because she's already appeared on our Humans of Fairy Creek episode, Tasha Diamant. Tasha is an ecofeminist, an inconvenient prophet, an artist, an activist, a cancer survivor, and a mother. And I asked Tasha to be on the podcast to talk about the Human Body Project, which is a performance arts piece. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
A performance arts piece that Tasha has been pursuing, I think, since 2006. Is that right?
Yep.
Great. So welcome, Tasha. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about the Human Body Project, what it is, why it is, where it comes from, what you're trying to achieve with it.
Yeah. So I guess like elevator pitch wise, it's a performance art project in which I use my naked body to both create space for and symbolize and share vulnerability. So that's the like really short answer.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, what it really is a way of creatively / spiritually / actually / physically doing what my part to manifest matriarchy in this world.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about what need you're fulfilling either personally or sociologically or politically to manifest matriarchy?
I use the word cultural a lot because I think that this is the sickest culture that has ever existed. And all of us grew up in it. So the water that we swim in is tainted by atrocity. And most people, I would say, I pretty have to say like all of us on some level just can't function without dehumanization. Like we just couldn't actually function because of the way the culture dehumanizes people in such a comprehensive way. So back to answering the question about matriarchy. So I would never have started this project unless I had become a mother myself. And I have had more time since I've talked about it in like some of the writing that's in the blog, because, no one does blogs anymore. I went through a process in my body becoming a mother. I don't just mean like being pregnant and growing a person inside me and then expelling that person and then breastfeeding that person and nurturing that person. That is a definite embodied experience that all mothers have. All mothers that do all of that stuff. I went through an embodied experience where how I would describe it now is that it exposed to me and somehow snapped me out of, on some levels, what I call the fracture of the Western mind.
Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
So again, back to the dehumanization part and the atrocity that we swim in this culture. The Western mind has to be fractured or we can't deal with the responsibility of the atrocity we cause. I mean, people call it colonialism and they call it but I call it patriarchy. Yeah, so I feel like the experience that I had upon becoming a mother changed me in a really deep consciousness way, but I didn't have words for it. So what I did have, though, was like some tenacity and stubbornness. And I come from the background of, can you still hear me? Or is
Yeah.
okay. Been good?
Yep.
Okay. I think like I was the person that created the project because of all the things that I was before I became a mother. So I was in the 90s, I was a very committed visual artist. That's actually my mural over there. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
The one on the side of the Newbridge Theater.
That's great. Hold on. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I think that if it wasn't because of all the things that I went through before becoming a mother, I became a mother. I don't it's like a bunch of things intersected inside me. So one was that I had been a very committed visual artist for 10 years in the 90s, which was a really terrible time to be a painter.
Why was that a terrible time to be a painter?
Because all the art world was saying that painting is dead. And it was all about conceptual art.
Don't they say that every 30 years or so?
It's like a definitely weird time. I was thinking about this on the way here. This is an aside, but you know how no one uses the word postmodern anymore?
Yeah.
Because there's no
Except
word.
for the radical right, of course.
Well, yeah, probably. I didn't know that, but okay. That's because there's no word for what we're at now. It's like, your eyes are opening to atrocity. That's where we're at right now. So anyway, the 90s were big on postmodernism.
Mm-hmm.
And so painting was not postmodern. So anyway, very committed artist in the 90s. Also became a very serious yoga practitioner in the 90s. But again, not maybe falling into the way that North American yoga is practiced. And I often say that for me, yoga was not healing. It opened my eyes. Whereas a lot of North American yoga, blah, blah, is about healing.
Right.
That's not how it worked for me.
You wrote on your website something that I thought was really, really interesting. Well, you wrote a lot of things on your website that are interesting. One of the things that really piqued my interest, you wrote, quote, "The Human Body Project, which is, in essence, me sometimes volunteering as a sample human.
Mm-hmm.
Working through this issue is my way of doing whatever I can to move the world closer to non-domination and harmony." I'm just fascinated by that idea, Tasha, of you using yourself as a sample human. I don't even know what to make of that. I hadn't read anything like that before, certainly written by an artist.
Yeah, so there's the kind of the yoga and self-realization background and the art background. And the art that I did was very in the moment, not results oriented, but process oriented. And that changed my mind. I want to give some props to the one painting teacher I had. I didn't go to art school, but I did take classes with this one guy. And he taught us to paint in a process oriented way. I personally, growing up as someone born in the 60s, very white, very Canadian, very middle class privilege background, I had never come across this idea of process versus results. We are living in this results-based society, right? And God, I start talking and I forget what you asked. So you were asking about the sample human.
The concept of the sample human.
So
and
also,
using yourself as a sample human.
In academic speak, you could think of it as autoethnography.
What do you mean by that?
So autoethnography is when you study your own self as a cultural artifact. So kind of like that. So I used myself, this person that was going through all these things, as a kind of study piece, we could say. You could put it into a lot of categories. that we have in Western kind of academia type stuff. And one of them could be cultural studies / anthropology / ethnography, autoethnography. They do that in psychology too, like a case study.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of thought of myself that way, like a case study or an ethnographic study. Yeah, using myself in that way.
And then why naked? I mean, I'm sure there are almost innumerable ways in which a person can use their body to express an artistic or a political message. What was it about exposing your nude body or, existing as a nude person
Right.
that you felt fulfilled your artistic and your political goals?
That is a really good question. And the kind of simple answer is that it came to me in inspiration, like more like the way that people explain being given a calling. I sometimes am reluctant to talk about it that way because, fucking Mormons think that what they're doing knocking on your door is a calling. So, but that's how it came to me. Like, I had this message that is what I had to do, and it wouldn't go away. I didn't want to do it. I had the idea, message, inspiration, whatever you want to call it, in 2004, and it took me 2 years to get the guts up to do it.
And the inspiration was to perform.
Yeah, so the inspiration was, and I understood it, was that if I show up naked, I'm showing up as vulnerably as I possibly can without killing myself.
And you say the inspiration happened in 2004.
Yeah.
And you started performing in 2006.
Yeah, it took me a long time. I pushed it away.
Why?
It wouldn't, because I didn't want to fucking be naked. I still don't want to be naked. I don't even really I shouldn't say I don't like talking about it. I do, but I also, it's really difficult for me to do this project. Difficult isn't even a good word. It's been excruciating.
Why, and maybe this is more of a rhetorical question because the answer is in your continued performance, why do it if it is so painful? If it's not something that you want to do, why continue to do it?
Because out of a duty as a human being and a mother to
Sorry. So if it's so painful, if it took you so long to go from inspiration to execution, why do it?
Because sometimes you got to do things that are painful, not because you fucking want to, but you have to. I felt like I had an absolute obligation as a mother to show up in this way because I needed to do whatever I could do to create. I still believed in this thing of, at that time, 2006. Okay, so it's the early thousands still, or mid thousands. And I admit, I still believe that there was the possibility of consciousness changing on the earth. Don't really believe that anymore.
What do you mean you believe that there was
I had this idea,
changing, you don't believe that anymore?
I was part of this yoga world, right? And I rejected a lot of it. But there were certain kind of whatever you want to call them, new age, yogic, whatever, blah, blah, kinds of consciousness speak, where there was this idea that there could be a tipping point and the change in human consciousness could change. I used to believe that. I don't anymore.
Why?
The level of atrocity we're at and the level of just, oh, cool, is just shocking to me. So at the time, though, I did feel hopeful that there was something that I as a person could do energetically and also obviously in performance and whatnot, but somehow I felt like it was an energetic contribution. And it felt absolutely and utterly necessary. So I pushed way beyond my capacity for way too long. And I believe it's why I'm so sick.
We talked a little bit about your performance art, and then separate from the performance art, related but separate, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, are the vulnerability vigils.
Like, to me, that was years in. I had seen the power of what would happen in performance spaces with people that, like, I mean, it took sort of brave or more open-minded people to come to my shows, but I had seen the power of it, and I had seen like how people like understood really deeply stuff that is really hard to comprehend in this culture, back to the beginning of like how we all swim in atrocity. So it felt really important to me to try and like make it grow. And
what is the vulnerability vigil?
Getting there. And so to try and make the project grow and try to sell it and try to market it and try to like say the words that grant giving people or academic people or art people or theater people want to hear, all I experienced was rejection. Even though I knew that it was extremely powerful. I mean, now I'm not so naive. At the time, I had a lot of like white person privilege and forgot that like, actually, when you start to push the buttons of the status quo, like it doesn't matter if you have white person privilege, they don't like you anymore either. So at the time, I thought that like I might be able to kind of like push past this somehow. So it was a good lesson in like, no, that's not going to happen for you either. So what happened though for me personally was that I realized, okay, I can't do it in performance spaces, theater spaces, academic spaces. No one wants to give me a grant. These people that are like, hey, you should do this over here. And then you offer it and they say, no, I just thought I'll take it to the street.
And what do you mean by it?
The performance.
The performance.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I did these performances was in fringe festivals because they're lottery based.
Before we start talking about the vulnerability vigils, when you did the performances at festivals, what was the response?
Like I say, it takes a certain person to come to a show like that. And it wasn't like 100% of the people in the audiences were like on board. But people had profound reactions, like tears, sharing like words of like understanding of what was going on there. People joined me, like decided in the moment to come up and also take their clothes off and share vulnerability in that way. Lots of things were very powerful.
And maybe this is more relevant to the vulnerability vigils. But did you ever have powerfully negative reactions? Because
of course.
Because people can and often do react negatively to the naked human body, especially a woman's body, especially in public, that's removed from, or at least not directly related to the idea of sex and desire.
Exactly.
I would imagine some people would not be happy to see a naked woman making a political statement with her body or artistic statement with her body.
Yes, that's true. And both in performance and on the street. I want to just say right up front, I knew in the beginning that doing it on the street, I would have to like have some kind of buffer.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's fair to just like, except in that one thing that I did at the Desperate Pride Parade. All the other times I always had something like in front of me.
Like a sign or
something? A
something?
sign. I always used a sign, yeah. So to buffer, because like not everyone's consenting to see a naked person in the street, right? But in performances, yeah, people had negative reactions. Like that was part of what I understood the project to be, was like, I'm not just doing this and you're not just sharing vulnerability with me. We're also seeing how you react when you're vulnerable. Like I'm a mirror. And so some people would be able to like, be like, wow, this has allowed me to feel a great deal of vulnerability and I am going to sink into that space. And others would be like, ha ha ha, ha, like laughing. I've had men do weird things, not that often, but like thinking that it's okay to like touch their dicks.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that in a performance?
In
or
performance spaces, yeah. I've had, like, I've done most of this in Canada, and Canadians are, as you probably know as an American, we're pretty passive aggressive. So there's not a lot of like outward aggression.
It's not the most confrontational society.
No. So not a lot of aggression, but more like maybe disgust. Like I said, some felt free to like touch their dicks, which I called them on. So stuff like that, yeah. And then on the street, mostly I got like laughs.
What kind of laugh?
Like people taking a picture of my butt.
Okay.
And laughing, like going like that with their friend and with my butt. And
are they laughing with you or at you? Because
I think
see those two
at
different
me.
times.
I don't think that most people on the street understood what I was doing. But in a way, again, it's like mirroring that, like it's in the art way. Yeah. If we look at it as an art piece, it's a mirror.
Why, you mentioned consent, and this maybe is a jarring question. If you are performing your art on the street and it's art that comes from a place of, like you said, it's a response to pain as a mother and pain as somebody who lives in this incredibly destructive culture, why is the consent of the people who may see you on the street, why was that important to you?
I mean, I still feel like, again, I did make that one piece where I really was naked and running around for a while. But in general, it didn't feel like that level of confrontation was necessary in what I was trying to convey or be.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wrote, I have learned that being naked is much easier than being open-hearted, but I've also learned that being open-hearted is easier when I am naked.
Yeah.
I am less defended. Vulnerability makes me more able to be heartful. I just think that's a beautiful sentiment. Could you expound on that? What were you thinking? Maybe could you give us more details about what you intended when you wrote that passage?
I do think it really does come back to this culture that we accept dehumanization in. And so honestly, I believe that the moment we pop out, like we absorb that. And so this idea of being open-hearted is not what our culture is. Do
you think, sorry, go ahead.
It's so, and we also are not able to be emotionally vulnerable. I mean, some of us, there's a few healthy people that do it better, but definitely I'm not good at it. So, like nakedness in the Human Body Project is not just an actual thing. And also, like, I do believe, like, part of why I needed to be naked was to convey that I've learned so much in this body and that the body is the vessel of the learning and the knowledge. But also, nakedness is symbolic of the protected and damaged heart.
When you say that we emerge into this world dehumanized, do you mean we as, inhabitants of Turtle Island? Is that a human condition?
No, I refuse to call it the human condition. I get crazy when people use that term. No, I'm talking about like a global, patriarchal, colonial, capitalist fucking thing that we've all arrived in this planet in the 2000s. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like I said, in the 90s and the early thousands, I had kind of hope about it, but yeah.
What is to be done? I mean, I know how you are choosing to express what is to be done artistically. For those of us that maybe don't have an artistic bent, what is to be done?
I mean, do I have to give the answers to that too?
You don't have to give any answers. Tasha, you can leave right now. And many people would congratulate you on your good taste.
Uh, what is to be done? Again, like I've been through a process myself, right? Like I explained how when I started, like I still held on to a lot of like white privilege stuff that I thought that because I was so articulate and because I was so brave and because I was bringing this forward, that there would be a space for me. I believed that. And so it's been extremely painful that there has not been a space for me.
What do you mean there hasn't been a space for you? People haven't received it or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like nobody. And even in this town where I know all kinds of academics and theater people, like I'm nobody to them too. There's no space for this kind of work. And it took me a while to like understand that. Like this is so this is so opposite of what we are. I mean, I call it feminist work or ecofeminist work, but it's matriarchy. Like that's matriarchal work.
What?
And so matriarchy is what we need. And no one knows what that is, except for the people that no one listens to, which are like the very few last indigenous peoples left on the fucking planet. And a lot of them it's been broken because of patriarchy and colonialism. So I guess my hope is that there are going to be, as things start to fall apart more and more and more. Again, that's a whole other thing too. Like in the beginning, I kind of saw it as this, like, we're going to have like this, I don't know, end thing of climate change. Like everything's going to be on fire and bye. But as we've been experiencing, it's much
Slower.
much slower. And like disasters are boring now. Hey, boring. Climate change, fires, genocide, so boring. But what I see is that there are younger people that are creating much more collectivity, like this space and the encampment and Fairy Creek and who knows what the next sort of thing is going to be. Like I know a lot of young people that really work together and help each other and listen to each other and don't let the, sorry, Joel, cis het straight white men take over everything and like listen and care about each other. And what I pray for every day is like I pray to the ancestral matriarchs. I pray to the matriarchs of the natural world, like the trees and rock formations and geographical formations. And I pray to those matriarchs to help and support those who care to care. This is not a culture of care that we were born into. This is a culture of domination. And care is diminished and minimized. And the people who care the most, in my opinion, mothers, are the most diminished and minimized.
When do you think this became a culture of domination?
I mean, there's people that have written about it, right? Isn't that Jared Diamond guy, a guy who wrote about it? Like we're talking when agriculture, mostly, I think like when the nomadic people became settled and then started owning land, that was the beginning of patriarchy. And that was the beginning of like power over. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an expert in this. I haven't like studied anthropology, but my vision of matriarchy is when the people who care are uplifted. And then the ones that have like the ego and the dicks and whatnot, they get to be part of that group, but they listen to the people who care. So we're living in an upside down world.
You were talking about how disasters have become boring, Is part of the reason you do or you did the vulnerability vigils, and you were naked or mostly naked, at least during many of them, to shake people out of that complacency?
Yeah, definitely. But I realized doing them that I realized pretty early on doing them that it was like so-called in quotation marks, useless or futile. Like, I don't know about you, but if say I wasn't the person doing what I was doing and I'm walking down the street and there's a lady and she's standing with a symbol and she's naked and she's holding that and it's like cold outside, I would say, hey, what are you doing? Curious to know what you're up to. Like I can count maybe on 3 fingers how many times someone asked me a question.
Was that dispiriting?
It was definitely edifying. And the only people who ever did talk to me were tourists.
No, was it dispiriting to only be asked?
Oh, yeah, it was dispiriting. But it was also like, oh, okay, like these are really the people I'm dealing with. Like they can't even ask a question.
Yeah.
And like I said, the ones who would usually be tourists because they'd think it was some kind of crazy Canadian
Some
thing.
weird Canadian tradition. Yeah. That's funny. I want to talk to you about one of your vulnerability vigils, and it's a video on your website. It's called My Own Little Desperate Pride Parade. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about that? Because they probably haven't seen the video or haven't seen it yet.
I mean, I think I was just really losing my mind. So back to like what the Human Body Project is, in a way, it's kind of like me losing my mind and having a temper tantrum about this culture that I live in. And I think at that time, like I've gone through a lot of illness and I've forgotten a lot of stuff. But when I look at the video again, it's just like, wow, I was really losing my mind.
When was it?
It was in around 2018, wasn't it? Do you have it there? I can't remember. I think it was around 2018.
And was it in conjunction with the Pride Parade?
Oh, no. No, it was just
a random day?
It was like October, I think. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, are we still not going to do anything about, whatever this is? And so no, the answer was no, we're still not going to. Me living in my head because I'm like trying to like function, but also I'm crazy. But crazy is not a good word, but.
During that vigil, you were chanting, I am here, I am desperate.
I'm here, I'm desperate, I'm not going away.
Why?
It's like a play on I'm here, I'm queer, I'm not going away.
Why desperate? What were you desperate about?
I'm desperate every single fucking day living in this thing.
Is it, everything? Is it capitalism and environmental collapse and economic uncertainty and political persecution?
Yes, it's everything.
Not one, no one thing more than another?
I guess I haven't been cleared. Like, I think we are living in an insane culture and I can't handle it very well. So I'm doing my best as an artist to express that.
I guess what I'm pushing on, and maybe there's no answer, is there one or a group of things that you find particularly more insane than others?
I do find it insane that not everyone is revolting. Yeah, I find that insane. And back to like starting the Human Body Project, like, and then having these experiences and some of the performances where people were like obviously extremely and profoundly moved. I literally really believed that thousands of people would join me. Like I really believed that.
Were you surprised when it didn't happen?
I mean, eventually not, but it was like, wow, okay, really, this is really not going to be a thing.
In the video, it's pretty quickly the cops show up.
At that one, yeah, because I was like completely naked.
Yeah.
And I was running around. They didn't always come to all the vulnerability vigils where I would stand and hold a sign. Uh-huh. They did sometimes if someone called them, I guess. But that one, yeah, they called. Lots of people called them.
And the first cop who pulls up says, quote, do you want to come talk to me to make sure I don't have to arrest you under the Mental Health Act?
Yes.
I had a very strong response to that question, that threat.
Tell me.
Well, but before I tell you mine, I was going to ask you, did you have what was your response to that particular officer and that particular question/threat? If you did have a response.
It's interesting. I didn't feel threatened by him. I trust me, I do not like cops. He, first of all, somehow something about him seemed like he was going to like be reasonable. And
he good copped you.
He did good cop me. But also, I know the law a little bit. And I was like, this is art.
Yeah, I had, I guess maybe I had a stronger reaction because to me, I'm watching this video. This is the second time we've met. It's really the first in-depth conversation we've had. And it's my first time really taking a look at your art. But to me, when I saw and I heard that officer say that to you, it sort of broke my heart a little bit because the officer was just so clearly and obviously incurious about who you were and what you were doing. And to me, maybe I'm wrong, my perception was that it didn't even occur to the officer that this was art or even politics.
Yeah.
And they immediately reverted to their first instinct, which is, this is something different. And if it doesn't stop, I'm going to arrest. I'm going to commit a violent act. Not because anybody's being hurt, not because this person is hurting themselves, but because it's something different. And it broke my heart a little bit, even though, I was a public defender for 15 years. I've seen plenty of bad cops do plenty of bad things. But it broke my heart due to my interpretation that the officer's first knee-jerk response to something different was violence, the threat of violence.
I guess I wasn't in the least bit surprised by that.
And I probably shouldn't have been either.
Yeah, I wasn't. And I expected that cops would probably show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said when you're talking to police officers, you said, quote, I don't enjoy this. It's hard. I do this out of due diligence.
Yes.
What do you mean by due diligence? Due diligence.
I couldn't have had the awareness that I had and not do all of this. And like I said, it's been excruciating and it's probably made me very sick.
Do you regret doing this?
I can't regret it. I had to do it. And I think it's appropriate. It's absolutely fucking appropriate.
What do you hope the legacy of the project will be?
So I may be dying right now. I'm having my 4th occurrence of stage 4 cancer. I'm going through chemo. Really, really sick. I've lost 20 pounds. Don't really feel like eating. But part of me feels like I might still not die. And however, I am trying to be responsible and try and organize my stuff so that my kids who are only 17 and 22, when they're a little bit older, might want to explore it. So this question is very much with me right now. What is my artistic legacy? I hope that one day my kids understand how much I loved them, that I couldn't put away that necessity to care. I don't want to say I did this for my kids because they didn't ask me to, and it has not been easy to have me as a mother. But I definitely did it because of my kids.
Is it a part of you as a mother?
It's absolutely because I'm a mother. Yeah, it's absolutely because of that.
Do you think that it would be difficult for somebody to take on a project like this if they hadn't had that maternal experience? Is there something unique about that maternal experience?
For me, it was. I don't necessarily think that that's how it would have to be for every human. I think again, back to like when I was talking about how it kind of is about like the intersections of my life. I feel like I really took on the programming of a kid who was born in Calgary in the 1960s, who had like really ambitious, aspirational parents. And I just took on that programming so hard. And then when I had kids, and it's back to that fracture of the Western mind thing. Some process happened to me where I just could no longer. I still don't think I have great words to explain this. One of the ways I describe it is like my values and my programming were at odds. And then having kids was like, wow, my values and my programming are really at odds. And I'm going to do everything I can to fight my programming to stand up for my values.
That's fascinating. When, if you remember, I'm sure you do, when did that cognitive dissonance really hit? Was it when you got pregnant? Was it when you gave birth?
Like I am using those words now. I didn't have those words at the time. I had the feeling that I needed to do this.
When did that start?
That was in 2004.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually I hadn't had my second kid yet, but I had my first daughter. But I didn't do it until 2006. Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of the words that I use now at the time. I didn't understand the word matriarchy. I didn't really understand the word patriarchy. I mean, most people in this culture don't examine what patriarchy is. They're not curious about it. Like I call it the daddy of all oppressions. But if you want to use a better word, you can use domination. Like patriarchy and domination are the same thing.
Have you paid a personal price for your art and for this project?
Yeah, like doing those things that I did was all way beyond my capacity because my programming was to be a nice white lady. Like a nice white lady doesn't disagree with people or
get naked in public.
Doesn't get naked in public, for God's sake. Of course a nice white lady doesn't do that. I did have the ability to like frame it as art, and that helped me like be able to kind of like justify it to myself too in a way. But still it was very, very much way beyond my capacity. And then like what came up for me, I haven't talked about this much in our conversation. I haven't talked about it yet. Is so much shame.
About what?
All that nice white lady stuff. Like, I'm not saying it's logical. It just is what came up for me. So this like impossibility of pleasing those two sides of me, and impossibility of like, if I'm going to stand up for my values, then my programming as a nice white lady is not going to work out. But I'm still fighting with that. Like, I'll fight with it till I die, probably.
Have you paid any price in terms of friendships, family relationships?
Yes.
And how does that feel? I mean, it must feel, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how that feels. I don't know how it feels to pay a price for your art in terms of your relationships.
I think I've taken on a lot of like, I just have not been skilled in, God, it's a hard one to answer because I'm living it.
Yeah.
I think the reason, and back to that fracture of the Western mind thing, the reason that I was able to create this project and continue with it and understand how important it was is because I'm not able to compartmentalize. But to live in this culture, everyone has to compartmentalize or they can't survive. This is the fracture of the Western mind. And so I haven't been able to compartmentalize say some of those relationships. And I've taken on a lot of the pain of it. So yes, it has been extremely hard.
Do you regret anything?
I mean, I really don't. I just wish it had been easier to explain to my daughters.
If you had the opportunity, would you do it all over again?
I couldn't not do it. Yeah, I couldn't not do it.
Well, I can't thank you enough for talking to me.
Thank you. Thanks. It's messy. It's very messy.
It's messy and it's very personal, and your art is very vulnerable, and you're being very vulnerable, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the time to listen and try and take it in, because I know it's a lot. It's a lot because I'm talking about stuff that we actively avoid in this culture. And I'm talking about it because the reason that we are killing ourselves, because we are, is because we actively avoid this.
Yeah. My fascination and my admiration of you stems from the fact that I agree with your politics, with your sort of existential dread and your dire predictions for the future. Despite my best wishes, I do not have an artistic bone in my body. And I'm very envious of people who can express these political and personal sentiments through the medium of art. I wish I had that. And so I just think it's incredibly admirable. I know I could sit down and paint a picture. I know I could make a shitty
I was
mug,
just going to say this is your act. Yeah.
Maybe, but I really appreciate people who can turn political sentiment into art. I just find that endlessly admirable.
Right on.
I find what you're doing endlessly admirable.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you for being here, Tasha. I really appreciate it. The website is humanbodyproject.org, which I'll also link in the show notes. Any final words, any final thoughts, any admonitions or prescriptions, warnings?
Oy.
Oy. Oy Vesmir, as my great-grandmother used to say. Well, Tasha Diamant, thank you very much.
Jesus Christ came back today like you threatened he will. Which poor group of people do you think that he would kill? And who would Jesus choose to starve if you gave him the chance? And if there was a genocide, would he take a neutral stance? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would he say it's complicated and there's sinners on both sides? Would he say that some people, they just deserve to die? If Jesus Christ rose from the dead and on a sidewalk slept, would you extend your hand to him or just watch where you stepped? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus hate the gay folk, the queer folk, or the trans? Would he suggest they end their lives according to God's plans? Jesus tell a homeless man to get a fucking job, or turn his back on the poor? Would Jesus be a snob? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would a border wall? Would Jesus drive a tank? Would Jesus be a landlord? Would Jesus run a bank? Would Jesus Christ feel safe in his skin if he came to your town? And would you still believe in him if you found out he was brown? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Yeah, who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well,